toast or anything?
I'm all right.
Looking good. The almond and coconut butter with a bit of curry on toast. Good combo.
Hey, Claire.
Always forget about mute button. How are you?
How are you? You all right?
Yeah, I'm just fucking around with cameras. Sorry about the delay there. Trying to figure out which camera's going on. I'm just going to try my other one.
That's all right. I've just realised how silly I look.
Not at all. Not at all. I'm liking the headphones. It looks good. It's a good look.
Well, yeah, it's because I've got the family running around in the background, so
Is that to block out the noise, or is it
a combination? A combination of the two.
I'm not
Can
sure
you
I
hear
can
me
do
clearly?
with mine running around.
Oh, you're in your classroom at least. It's probably a safer place to be.
Oh, it's quite safe. I've just put a note on my door as well, so no one disturbs me this time. Every time I seem to do something, somebody's walking in with a Hoover or has a question.
Sounds like a typical school.
I just need to wedge the door shut so I can't get in.
Well, we've got 20 in so far. So hello everyone, if you're in. Good.
Do say hello to us on the chat box if you're there.
Be nice to know where everyone is.
Where are you from?
So you're going to do a short introduction, is that right, Claire? And then
yeah, just a very quick hello. If I could manage without having a meltdown. Hi, Ben. Hi, Tracy, as well. Kate from Lincolnshire. Gosh, all over. This is good. And if you're out there, if you mind telling us how you found out about the session as well, I'd be really interested to know that too. Was it on Twitter? That seems to be the main way that people are finding out about us.
Oh gosh, God, I hope I don't let you down.
I can't see that happening. Hearing you on the Teacher Talk radio was really wonderful. You've got such a lovely voice to listen to.
Oh, thank you. That's so kind. I hope it doesn't get too shrill today. Oh, I'm feeling nervous, but I'll be all right. Once we start, we'll be all right. Oh, wow. Somebody from Arizona there. Did I see that right?
Oh. Arizona, USA.
Wow.
Hello. And Switzerland.
Oh, cool. Excellent. International. We've gone global. Brilliant.
Wow. And someone says follow on Instagram. Is that Parm Women Ed? Is that Women Ed on Instagram? Hello from rainy Lincoln. Oh, do you know, it's quite sunny here.
Yeah, we've got sunshine here as well. I'm in Jersey, by the way, everyone. So welcome to Jersey. I feel like I'm on the Eurovision Song Contest, live from Jersey.
And what are you going to sing for us today, Parm?
Well, don't tempt me. It doesn't take much.
Glass of wine and a duet later.
We should so do that. Young conference. That's where it'll have to take place, Claire.
I'll start a karaoke section.
Brilliant.
Leicestershire, hello. SBL Connect, okay. Women Ed on here. Wow, I can't believe what a diverse places that everyone's coming from. Amazing.
Wonderful.
Switzerland, wow. That's very exciting. Up to 31 as well now. How many did we get signed up in the end, Parm? What was the final?
We had 280.
Wow.
So that's where we got to. How many of those? Well, that was me. I was just turning up my volume. How many of those will turn up? Hopefully they'll all turn up, but we shall see. We'll wait a little bit longer. We've got some time, haven't we?
Yeah, and I know that not everybody can attend live as well. So they sign up, so they get the email about the recording later too on the YouTube channel.
Excellent. Must remember to upload it.
Yeah. Yeah. Aberdeenshire, another one. Sunny in Aberdeenshire. I always think people joke when they say it's sunny up there.
Oh, it's a bit harsh.
I know. I don't mean that as a horrible thing. I've got a friend that lives in Glasgow and anyone says, yes, sunny Glasgow, it's sort of a joke. It's never sunny.
It's the West Coast usually is, isn't it? I don't know. I have to say, there's a big shout out for Women Ed Scotland later, Women Ed Wednesday. A little reference to that.
Lovely. Yep, so if you haven't already, please do tell us how you found out about the session. A couple of people saying Instagram, some people saying Twitter as well. It was raining earlier in Aberdeenshire. See, I knew. The weather has been nuts recently, hasn't it? It's just crazy.
I know, it's so cold. Although today is really warm, I will say.
earlier. Just give it a couple more minutes, I think, before we make a start. Down through Twitter. Yep, so if you don't already follow Women Ed on Twitter, please do follow on there if you are a Twitter user. And if you're not a Twitter user, you probably ought to be. It's a fantastic place to network and find out about fantastic events like this. My uni email. Are you a trainee, Tony? Can't tell if you're on mute. Yes, you are on mute. I can't hear anybody else. Sociology student. Oh, that is interesting. Okay.
Is that sociology wanting to go into teaching or just sociology? Well, good for you. It's a great subject. Gosh, it's so diverse, isn't it? This audience. It's brilliant.
Really, really nice. Looks like a lot of females too. We have had a handful of males attending the last couple of sessions. Just trying to look at the participant list. Share. It's all the link via Twitter. Hello, Rachel. Just sociology, says Tony. Well, if you do decide teaching's for you, Tony, we've got some good connections we can give you. Little plug there. I'm currently on night shift, so I have to change my life plan. Oh, wow. Good for you.
I was talking to someone today about how education is for everyone, and there's no point in your life where, you know, I think you go through life thinking it's not for me, I can't do it, I don't have time, and then you just hit a point where you just realize that you can. So good for you there, Tony. Well done.
Very hot in Arizona, and found out about their session through work.
Fabulous.
And are you a teacher, Lydia, over in the USA? I'm just chatting away. Hope you don't mind. And anyone else out there, if you are a teacher, please do let us know what you teach as well. Let's find out a bit more about you. Well, I've got a couple of minutes just to let the last couple of people in. It's good to know the audience.
The other day I was at an interview. I'm just like, I've got all these drinks around me at the moment, and I just remember the other day I was sitting at an interview and I locked this glass off. Water everywhere. It was awful. So I thought I better move them out of the way, because no doubt I will do something like that.
So we've got history head of department, maybe assistant head teacher next week.
Ooh, good luck, Siobhan.
Yeah, brilliant.
And if you don't get it, history head of department is the best job, I will say, without a doubt.
Nursery teacher, preschool Head Start program in Abu Dhabi as well. Moved from the UK, teaching geography. Oh, nice one, Siobhan. I've got a geography teacher there as well. Teacher going to be a deputy head teacher in a special.
Oh, congratulations.
And moving back into the PYP coordinator role next academic year. I know I don't know what PYP stands for. Perhaps I should.
Primary years program? That's my guess.
Primary year program. Yeah, there you go. A deputy head teacher over in Scotland too. Specialist language teacher.
Hi, Audrey. I recognise that name.
Primary year program, IB. Good, lovely. And hi back with a smiley face there. You go. Lovely. And health teacher and mental health lead too. I've seen lots of these mental health lead roles coming through on Twitter. It's really great to see too that it's been given the time it deserves. Assistant principal in Warren College is Surrey, science and maths teachers, and Helen is a head of year, all sorts. That's really exciting, isn't it?
Excellent.
Right.
Wow.
We have hit 4:30. Should we make a little start?
Yes, let's do it.
Are we all ready? Have you got your drink ready, Parm?
They're at a safe distance, just in case.
Out of arm's reach.
That's it.
Right, let's make a little start then. Just want to say good afternoon and a very warm welcome to you all, whether you are here live today or whether you are watching the recording later on the Women Ed YouTube channel. Once again, I'm thrilled to be working in partnership with Women Ed to bring you this session, and it is one that is very close to my heart indeed. Women Ed have had such an enormous impact on me, both personally and professionally, and as someone who suffers massively from the dreaded imposter syndrome, and anxiety related to public speaking, which actually even talking here today is requiring my 10% braver pants massively. 10% braver is truly a mantra that I try to live by. And I said to Parm before the session how much I hate public speaking, but here I am. I introduced a session a few weeks ago, and watching it back, all I could see was how fast I talk, how many uncomfortable I said, how many times I was touching my hair about something, looking a bit flushed and embarrassed. And whilst I was watching it, all I could do was focus on the negatives. And there's another look. And that's something I think we all do really, that we should, and another we should be celebrating our strengths. See, now I'm really conscious of it. All I'm going to notice is so Parm Plummer, our speaker today, she is not only a Women Ed leader, but Parm, I believe you also suffer from imposter syndrome, is that correct?
Massively, as I will talk about later.
So during the session, there'll be lots of opportunities to do activities, and I'll be monitoring the chat box and questions. So please feel free to get involved. And last thing, just before we start, I'd just like to let you know that we have one more upcoming session in our webinar series, again with Parm, on how to diversify your team. And this is on Tuesday, the 15th of June. And what I'll do is I'm just looking for the link here, and I'm going to pop this link in the chat box. So if there's anybody out there who is interested in diversifying their team and looking at the positives of that, please do sign up. It's another free session that we are running. I hope you'll enjoy the session today and you get what you need to be 10% braver. Over to you, Parm. I'm just going to do that link in the chat box.
Excellent. Thank you for that wonderful introduction, Claire. I could never tell at all that you suffer from imposter syndrome. And hopefully by the end of the session with all of you, we will find that you won't. So I'm just going to share my screen with you. Just bear with me. It's a famous statement, isn't there? I'm just going to share my screen. Hopefully you can all see that now. And I will pop that up and get this, if it works. Excellent. Right. So let's begin. So this is our discussion. This is what we're going to be talking about today. Your year of being a braver, more confident you. Now that's a bold statement, isn't it? And a bold title, but hopefully we'll be able to give you some of this and give you some ideas about how you can be a braver you. And before we start, I'm just going to talk a little bit about Women Ed, which I know that some of you know about it, but I guess it's some of you who haven't really heard about it or have heard about this session through something else. We are an organisation that was established to empower more women in education to have the choice to progress on their leadership journey. So what we do is we get aspiring and current leaders, female leaders together, so that they feel kind of empowered, I guess, that they can see role models, because we can't see it if we can't be it if we can't see it, and also to share that journey that very often for women reflects the image on the right there of the screen, where women traverse their careers, rather than that on the left, where women, or rather where men tend to go up the career ladder progressively, and women will probably resonate with that picture there instead. Our values are our 8 C's. These are what we kind of underpin everything that we do within Women Ed. So we are values driven, and we always revert back to our values when we talk about, when we have discussions about what we're doing and why we're doing it. And so these 8 C's are really key to what we're doing. And hopefully today we can focus on some of these through clarity, through collaboration, through connection, through confidence in particular, and through change. So that's the aim. And finally, a little bit about our networks. We've actually got, it's 20 plus countries now, I want to say, with more than 30 networks. And we spread right away from Australia to America. We've got new networks just started up in Canada, local networks right across the globe. So it really is a growing organisation driven by volunteers as well. Every single one of us is a volunteer. And I think that that really speaks volumes about what we do and what we offer and how much we believe in it. And I feel particularly privileged that I am part of the Women Ed GSLs, the global strategic leads, because it makes me part of this network and this community. Finally, our networks, our campaigns are these 4 campaigns, our Change 2020 campaigns, the things that we focus on. They're all things that we focused on from the start, but we wanted more clarity about what we do. And so we've clarified them into 4 key aims that we can measure, really. And I guess one of those is today's session. So before I begin, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about me. Now, this blurb, which is quite a challenge really to write such things, isn't it? But the thing I want you to focus on most of all is the bit at the bottom. Because like all of you, I daily have problems with imposter syndrome and perfectionism. These are challenges that face us all. And when I was writing this list of things that I've done, and I think, wow, I've done so much and I kind of achieved so much, but yet there is not a single day where I will think, am I good enough? Am what I'm doing, is what I'm doing right? And I think this is probably something that resonates with all of you as well. So hopefully you're coming on a journey with me, and I'll tell you a little bit about that as we go. So we'll begin. And a little bit about this place. You may recognize this. This is the temple at Delphi. And there were 3 things carved just above where the oracle was at Delphi. And you've heard of the oracle. It's the place where people went to find out the truth, to find out what was going on in their lives. I'm a classicist, hence this appeals to me greatly. But these 3 things that were carved, they're called the Delphic maxim. The first will be something that you'll be familiar with, nothing to excess. We're all familiar with that idea of everything in moderation, and the idea that excess corrupts us. The second is about surety, then ruin. That's what it says. Now, that's quite difficult to translate, but the literal translation of that would be the idea of a pledge, then calamity. So pledge being a term for a loan or property being used to bail someone out or to give it as a loan. So the idea being then that if you give someone money or you loan money, you are going to bring ruin to yourself. A more profound meaning of that expression, surety brings ruin, is actually linked to the idea of false certainty. Beware of false certainty. Beware of believing that you are better than you are. We'll talk a little bit about that later, because I think that also fits alongside the whole question of imposter syndrome. The final maxim on the Delphic temple was this, Nosse te ipsum. And this stands for know thyself. Because what they believed, the Greeks believed, was that only by knowing oneself can we identify our flaws and our weaknesses, and therefore improve and make ourselves better. We need to recognize our strengths. We need to know who we are in order to come to the realization of what we are capable of. And it's this that we are going to explore today. So hopefully, by the end of this hour, you will be using more assertive language, clearer about your strengths, and be able to do some of these. And I hope that along the journey, some of the strategies that I'm going to share with you today will help you to find the ability to articulate and celebrate your strengths and expertise, because it is really important to remember that we are all facing those challenges, but every one of us has great strengths and and brings a lot of expertise to the table. So I'm going to start with a personal story then. And 12 months ago, I was in a bit of a crisis. It was the midst of lockdown, and I think many people probably felt a little bit like me during this time, juggling the role of mother alongside the role of trying to teach and to be everything that you are as a professional within your school life. And this crisis that I went through, I think it was because I felt sidelined. And the assumption had been made that my role as a mother meant that I couldn't do anything really extra for school. And that had left me feeling a bit of a loss. Now, that wasn't the first time that this had happened to me. And it's certainly not the first time that this happens to women, because there is plenty of evidence to suggest that mothers are judged on a much harsher standard than non-mothers. And I certainly felt that in my job as a parent. There was one point where I had a new role, leading teaching and learning, at a parents' evening, and the assumption was made that I wouldn't want to present on this topic just simply because I was a mother. I'd assumed you'd want to be in the audience as mum. In short, I doubted myself and I doubted my abilities. So I got myself a coach. And having that coach has made me 10% braver. And since then, I've really lived that mantra. I've started an MEd. I started to apply for roles that are that next step. And I have kind of challenged my imposter syndrome. So I can assure you that I've been on this journey. I'm still on this journey daily, but there is certainly, a lot of the experiences that I share every time I do one of these presentations, for example. I'm terrified because I think we all think, who am I? Why would you want to listen to me? So I guess one of the things that I want you to know is that if I can do it, you can do it. So let's talk through some of those ways. And I think ultimately it comes back to this. Imposter syndrome. We all know about it. We all feel the threat of it, perhaps daily. And it's experienced by both men and women, for sure. But women are perhaps more plagued with it than men. And that's because societal roles, societal expectations, gendered language, they all add to this feeling that we as women perhaps can't aspire or can't be the roles that we are wanting to be. And that leaves us with this deficit gap, if you like. So before I go on any further, I just want to see some reactions from you. If you could give me a thumbs up, please, or raise your hand, that's probably a better thing, if you suffer from imposter syndrome. So let's just see there how many raised hands. Oh, I don't know if we're going to be able to see. I'll put up the...
I can see, if you like.
Can you see that? Oh, great. Okay, so I think almost everyone I can see on the attendance or every single person. There's a few at the back, at the end there who haven't, but the vast majority have put their hands up and said that they are. And that's no surprise, really. I mean, for a start, you're here, but it's no surprise that women feel this way. And the reason for that is because we are more likely to downplay our achievements. This cartoon here resonated, but I think it's because we struggle with the concept of success. When we talk about success, women will say that, oh, I've worked really hard, or, oh, don't be silly, there's somebody who's better than me, or I was lucky, or I had the help of somebody else. When a man gets successful or is successful, he is more likely to say that he did it on his own. When a woman fails, she is more likely to link this to her ability. When a man fails, he's probably more likely to argue that he didn't prepare or work hard enough. So there's lots of evidence to support the idea that women kind of downplay their achievements. And that is because we feel uncomfortable with our success, with ambition, with success and working hard and being and taking pride in who we are. Now, all of you may recognize Lean In. Okay, sorry, I better hold it there. It's a book that I'd strongly recommend. Sheryl Sandberg was the CEO of Facebook and was highly successful. I'm just going to read you a statement from her book that she says. She talks about, for women, feeling like a fraud is a symptom of a greater problem. We consistently underestimate ourselves. Multiple studies in multiple industries show that women often judge their own performance as worse than it actually is, while men judge their own performance as better than it actually is. Assessments of students in a surgery rotation found that when asked to evaluate themselves, the female students gave themselves lower scores than the male students, despite faculty evaluations that showed the women outperformed the men. A survey of several thousand potential political candidates revealed that despite having comparable credentials, the men were about 60% more likely to think that they were very qualified to run for political office. She goes on, but those are just some of the examples of the ways in which we undermine ourselves and we downplay our achievements. And this has been proven study after study. And in fact, it actually makes you sweat. It makes us uncomfortable. Perhaps you're sitting there squirming a little bit at the thought of this, having to big up your own experience. The Psychology of Women Quarterly published the results of a study in which female students had to write a scholarship essay extolling their virtues, and also one where they talked about the successes of somebody else. What they found in that study was that women displayed decreased motivation. They actually sweated and got really uncomfortable when they had to write about themselves. Whereas when they wrote about other people, they felt much more happier and much more competent. So why is this? Why do women feel like this? Well, largely it's because of these things. We struggle with this dual concept of women. The idea that you should be demure, not brash, quiet, not loud, domestic, not political. All of these dichotomies, these kind of binary concepts of male and female are problematic for women, because what we do is we therefore struggle to own any success that we have or any ambition that we have. We also struggle with the concept of gendered language. I'll talk a little bit about that later, but we come across gendered language all the time in leadership descriptions, in job descriptions, in adverts, and that makes us doubt ourselves, because how can we live up to a concept which doesn't really match the concepts of how we define ourselves? Finally, we fear judgment. We are constantly concerned about how people view us and what they think of us. Now that, I will reassure you, as you get older, as I'm nearly approaching 50, I shouldn't say nearly because I'm wishing my life away, but as I am, you become more comfortable in your skin, but we still are concerned about what other people think of us. And this is the impact of that, okay? What we assume is that everybody else knows more than us, and what we know is limited, whereas the reality is a much closer connection between what we know and what others know. Now, this is actually defined as the Dunning-Kruger effect. Now, some of you will probably have heard of this recently, particularly in your cognitive bias presentations and workshops that you've been running, those connected with tags. But the Dunning-Kruger effect, what they found was that two things really. The unskilled people tend to think they're more competent than they actually are. That's the cognitive bias. And then there are those who are actually quite competent, but they actually lack a sense of confidence in their abilities. And it's usually women who are the ones who are competent and don't display confidence in themselves, whereas it's the men who tend to think they're more competent than they actually are. And this presents a real challenge for women. Because number one, how can we assert authority if we lack confidence? If you go to an interview, what one study showed that of 166 interviewers who were questioned, they found that 52% had made up their minds in the first 5 to 15 minutes. Now that is powerful if you think about it. Because if you come across lacking confidence, if you come across as nervous, touching your neck, shuffling about, looking down, then you're not going to convince people that you are capable. The second challenge for women is number 2 there. And a 2012 study found that high school maths teachers believed that boys were better at maths than girls, despite both boys and girls getting similar grades in science and maths. If people continue to believe these things, then nothing will change. If we continue to present this idea that we don't have confidence, we're never going to get into those positions of power. We're never going to get into those leadership places, and then nothing will change. So that dual challenge has got to be addressed, and it's got to be addressed by us. We've got to take a look at ourselves and think, how can we change this? So where do we start? Well, I think one thing that we can do is, first of all, recognize our feelings. That's crucial. And recognizing our feelings is really important. If we don't start listing them, that might help. So our first strategy today is actually think about what your achievements are. When I wrote my blurb at the beginning, it was uncomfortable. I actually did feel uncomfortable. I always feel uncomfortable writing letters of application or CVs. That's because we're promoting ourselves. But sometimes it's powerful. So write down a list of the things that you do on a day-to-day basis. If you really struggle with your successes or defining your success, perhaps if you're applying for a job, it's worth just writing down some of the things that you've achieved in the day. Because by doing that, what you recognize is that you are capable and that you can achieve things. This quote from Gemma Benson, which is from Being 10% Braver, one of the Women Ed books, which is one of the books. This book is about lived experiences. So I'd strongly recommend it if you want to, I guess, hear people's experiences of this. And this chapter by Gemma Benson is actually really powerful, talking about how we can conquer our feelings of inadequacy and be 10% braver. And one thing is that acknowledgement. Acknowledge it. If we recognize that feeling, then perhaps we can move forward and we can start to think that actually, there's no way to know everything. And by being open to experiences, we're going to develop ourselves. So over to you now. Don't press go yet. I'm going to stop sharing because otherwise we won't see these. But what I'd like you to do is I want you to think about one word that somebody else would use, somebody you work with would use to describe you. So don't just type it into the chat box, but don't press send yet. And then I will put, I'll say 1, 2, 3, and then hopefully we can get those up in the chat. So type one word that somebody else would use to describe you, someone who you work with. 1, 2, 3, go. Wow. So there's some brilliant, do you want to run through some of those, Claire? There's some great statements, aren't there?
I'm going dizzy just looking at them all coming. Let's have a look at these. Right, so I'll just, gosh, it keeps jumping around all over the place. I saw, just trying to go back down now, knowledgeable, reflective, innovative, hardworking, diligent, efficient. I think I wrote efficient actually. Caring, passionate, organised, reliable, calm, intense, enthusiastic. What an amazing load of words there.
Nice, Cheryl. I'm sure you could think of something more descriptive than nice. But it's wonderful to see all of that, isn't it? That these are all things. It's much easier to recognise our strengths when we're doing it from the perspective of somebody else rather than from ourselves. And so just remember what you've written here. And one really good strategy is also to ask people who work with you, how would they describe you? Ask them to give you 3 words that they would use to describe you. And what you'll probably find is that some of those words are really empowering and give you that perspective that perhaps you haven't had. I can see some people have got raised hands. I don't know whether that's from before, whether they've got, no, maybe it's just from earlier.
Yeah, it's just
Okay, so I'm just gonna have to share my screen again now, so just bear with me. Try to put up the right thing rather than my I've got all sorts of things open up on my screen. Right, there we go. Let's share that again. So, whoops. Am I there? I seem to have everything open apart from my... Can you see my screen, or am I...
no, I can just see your sort of web browser, as it were.
Okay, hold on a moment. I might just have to start that again. It seems to have gone out and I'll kick it back in again. I apologise. Just twiddle your thumbs for a moment and just occupy yourselves. Maybe get back to that list. Maybe
Right, looking at the list again. Communicative, hardworking, a thinker, kind. I did see one a minute ago. It was opinionated, which I quite liked, but that almost sounds a little bit negative, doesn't it? But that comes to that gendered language. I think you're going to bring up shortly, I should think.
Yeah, I think you're right, actually, and it's funny, isn't it? Because I think there is always that dichotomy. There is always an alternative to the statement that we, the negative one. Another way of saying opinionated could be knowledgeable.
Yeah.
Because you've only got opinions when you're knowledgeable. So maybe that's another way of looking at it, that there is an alternative. Right. Okay, I found my slide again, so let's go. So another strategy, I think I referred to this one earlier then, is to think about writing a blurb. Write a blurb in the third person. By doing it that way, you disassociate yourself from it and it becomes about somebody else. It's a bit like writing someone else's story. But if you do it on your terms with your experiences, a bit like I did at the start there, what you'll get is a little bit more of it takes us out of that uncomfortable feeling of writing about ourselves that we sometimes have. And actually, you might find that it's more empowering to write in that way. So writing a blurb will certainly help you. Strategy number 2 is this one. Now, I've actually taken this one from this book, which is a brilliant book. I'd strongly recommend it. I've got it at the end as well of this video. Viv Groskop's Lift as You Climb. Strongly recommend it. And it's a brilliant book because she gives you lots and lots of strategies about how we can not only boost and empower ourselves, but also boost and lift others as we go. And so for this one, what I want you to think about, sometimes we associate ambition or success with negative qualities, and that leads us to think, oh no, I can't be negative. I can't be seen to be praising myself. I can't be seen to be owning my success. So what I want you to do, again in the chat, and I'm going to try and stop sharing without destroying my screen, is I'd like you to think about something negative. And I've given you an example there because I'm a teacher and I model. So at the bottom, we've got, they only care about money. But the flip side of that, of course, is they value their worth. You're not going to sell yourself short when you know that you're worth something, because you know that you are hardworking, you know that you're conscientious, you know that you're valuable. There's a big difference between those two things there. One is positive, one is negative. So what I'd like you to do, I'll stop sharing again, and we'll see if, actually, maybe I should, if we can get some statements up. So think about something negative that someone might say about ambition or success, and then counterpose that with something positive. So when you're ready, you can hit send on this one. It might take people a few minutes to think about things. But try to put the two. I can see that Caroline has put bossy. Yeah, people think, oh, here we go. Oh, now that's a good one, Maria. She's too driven. She knows what she's excellent, brilliant. Passionate about their ideas instead of wanting everything their own way. Brilliant. Aha, well done, Kalia. Opinionated and voices heard. Excellent. Ruthless, they don't suffer through that. Excellent, brilliant. Some of these are excellent. And now this little activity is useful because it helps you to reframe that experience of success and ambition, instead of seeing it as something negative where people perhaps will challenge us about it, we can actually see it as a positive thing and something that can enrich us and make us better. And then as we do that, hopefully it will help us to improve our own understanding of it and accept it a little bit more. There are some great ones here. Who does she think she is? She knows she has what we need. That's brilliant. I like that one. Full of themselves, arrogant, proud of strengths. Excellent. Are there any that you've picked up there, Claire, that you...
Yeah, I was just looking at that arrogant one. I really like that. That's proud of strengths as well. I think that's a really good way to put that. And who does she think she is? that's absolutely correct. Hear that on the daily, don't we?
Absolutely. And I think it's that flipping that narrative so that we see it as a positive rather than as a negative, because I think all too often we view success and ambition as negative, when actually, you know, the reason we're all here, the reason we have Women Ed is because we want people to recognize that success and leadership and a desire to be successful and ambitious is actually a positive thing. And we absolutely should do that because we're good at what we do. And that's okay. Right, so I'm going to go back to sharing again. Let's see if this works now without, oh, I don't trust it now. Let's see if it, no, I knew it would do that. So I think there's a few more coming through, aren't there? Here we go. Right, I'm going to try not to stop sharing my screen because I think this is going to happen every time, isn't it? Now I have to run through all my slides. Apologies for the delay there. Okay, so we were on strategy number 2, which we just talked about. Strategy number 3 is another great example, or another way, and a little bit referring back to what I was talking about when I said about keeping a record of your achievements and listing what you've done. So at the end of each day, maybe just write down 2 or 3 things that you've done. Now, mine today would be, I ran a workshop on imposter syndrome. That would be mine. What would yours be today? What have you done today? That was amazing. If you can pop those in the chat and have a look at those. I'm not going to be able to bring them up on the screen, but hopefully you will be able to have a look at them.
Got negotiating pay for a new role.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, that's great. That's definitely something Women Ed are advocating for. Setting up a new assessment platform for colleagues, connected with a distressed pupil. Found a solution to a technical issue that support couldn't solve, helped a colleague. Ran a workshop for a group of new and aspiring head teachers. Created a presentation for parents about childhood poverty. Pep talk for anxious year 11. Attended SLT interview. God, they're coming too fast for me to read them now.
These are, I mean, maybe just read through some of those yourselves, but I think what that shows us is just how much we do on a day-to-day basis and how much we achieve on a day-to-day basis. Reminding yourself of that, keeping that firmly in your mind is so powerful for you to remind yourself, actually, I am good at what I do. I can do it. And I own and deserve my ambition and my success. And that's what you need to remind yourself of. So again, a really useful and helpful strategy. Finally, I'm going to talk about lifting others, because by lifting others, we actually help ourselves. And this final strategy is about hearing others sell themselves short. People do it, we do it on a regular daily basis. We depreciate ourselves all the time. But what we should do is actually call it out when we hear people doing it. Because when we do that, what we're doing is we are helping them to own their success and to own their achievements. But we are also helping ourselves, because by helping others, we can see our own successes and strengths too. So it's always worth remembering that, you know, stop people doing it. This reminds me of that quote from, is it Maya Angelou, that every woman who stands up for herself stands up for all women. And I think that is such an important point, because I'm just thinking about the person that negotiated their salary. You may think that you know that was something for you, and that's deeply uncomfortable doing that, because you're having to acknowledge your worth. And again, it goes back to that thing of people thinking that, you know, all you care about is money. Well, actually, no, you know your worth, and that's why you're not selling yourself short. But by standing up for that and actually making a stand about your pay, you're actually helping all the other women that will come after you, who will not be able to necessarily stand up for themselves. So that's why this one, I think, is one of the most important strategies that we can use when we are thinking about imposter syndrome. Now, I referred to this a little bit earlier about gendered language, and some of these quotes here, some of those words that are used on this slide are actually all words from head teacher adverts in the TES this week. And these are all words that we might not necessarily assume are linked to men, but there is actually a website that you can put in terms into, and it actually tells you what gender these terms are. And these terms are actually defined as male terms. And the truth of the matter is that women lead differently. We don't lead in the same way as men. Very often we lead in the kind of concepts of servant leadership, authenticity, social justice. These are the terms used for female leadership. And so many of the things up here, we don't necessarily see in ourselves, because we don't define ourselves in the same way. And that is an issue, because then we're pressured to be people we're not. And when we don't live up to those expectations, are we therefore failing in some way? Because we're not appearing to be all of the things that we see on that slide. So it's a challenge. It's a real challenge for women to kind of consider how they lead and the way that they lead. So we need to take a little bit more pride, I guess, in the way that we lead and how we lead and what we're leading for. So this little question is really about thinking about our values and knowing what our values are. Because if we understand our values, we define our purpose. What do you want to achieve? What motivates you on a day-to-day basis? If you know that and you understand it, that's what drives your ambition. And it's okay to be ambitious for the students. It's okay to be ambitious for every child to achieve their potential. That takes that success, that ambition away from you slightly. It removes it and actually gives you something to motivate you. So values are really, really important in terms of helping you to overcome that imposter syndrome. So I've got one more thing, actually. I'm going to go just pop back a second, come back to this. In the chat again, and I want you to have a little minute of thinking. What is it that drives you? What motivates you in your role? What is it that you value? Claire, I might need you to have a look at these. And
I'm on it. We've got making a difference, a positive difference to young people, inspiring others, responsibility, seeing others develop, being valued as well from Natalie, development, supporting others, building relationships, lots coming in, lots about relationships, making connections, inspiring others.
And it's fabulous. Even those statements there are kind of quite gendered. You know, what is it that we're seeing? We're seeing that kind of human element about leading and about schools that we love, that makes us, that motivates us, that keeps us there. And so that little kind of activity, that thinking about what motivates you, just reminds you why you're doing what you're doing and why you deserve your success. Because when we take it away from ourselves and we focus it on something else, it becomes more powerful. And I mentioned the word gravitas earlier in that list of gender terms, and it's because it can be defined as a gender term. Now, this book, which I would strongly recommend, okay, this book's called, sorry, there you go, Gravitas, and it's by Carolyn Goyder. Again, I will put this, there is a list of these books at the end of my video, but she explores this concept of gravitas in terms of how we can all have it. And ultimately what gravitas is confidence. That's what it is. She defines it, she turns it into a bit of a kind of I guess, how the Greeks would have defined gravitas, and that is logos, ethos, and pathos. And by that, we mean knowledge, purpose, and passion. You have gravitas when you use those three things and you combine those three things. When you are knowledgeable about what you're talking about, when you're experienced, when you have purpose, when you have something that drives you, and when you have passion. So the questions are really, do you know your stuff? Do you know what you're talking about? Do you know what motivates you? And what is it that inspires you? What is it that actually, can you articulate this with passion, with enthusiasm? If you can do all of that, then you have gravitas, because ultimately that's what gravitas is. It's a combination of those three things there. Now, if you're not sure what your values are, or you're not clear, or you're trying to work them out, well, one way of doing that is to keep a gratitude diary. Now, I know these things have become really popular over time. They're quite useful for mindfulness activities, but that statement at the top, scale a small mountain each day, is useful, because ultimately what you're doing here is thinking about what really matters, giving yourself a reminder of the things that are important to you. So if you can keep that gratitude diary and write 3 things each day for a week, what you're likely to do is to unpick or work out what really matters. For the person that wrote down building relationships, for example, you might be writing down in your gratitude diary, you might talk about family, grateful that you got to spend time with your family, grateful that you got to talk to the students in your lesson that went beyond a conversation about learning, but actually was about them. Maybe something to do with relating to staff. Over a week, you will find those things that actually really matter. So this is a great way to work out your values. And I've just put that quote at the bottom there, because I think that really kind of is key to it. It's the possibilities within us. Ground yourself and plant roots in who you are. Once we know who we are, and we are comfortable with who we are, and we are comfortable with why we're doing what we're doing, that feeling of being an imposter is addressed in some way. So think about what it is that you actually care about. What is it that you value? Now, I put coach back because it's the first thing that came up when I looked for this. But another way of doing this or exploring it is to get a coach. And coaching is obviously, it's pretty de rigueur. A lot of people have coaches now, and they have coaching relationships at school. But having a personal coach who can talk through some of the challenges that you face in your own life, in your experience, can sometimes help you define your goals, your values, and your purpose. And that will help you, again, to be grounded in who you are. Now, you don't necessarily have to pay for coaches, although there are lots of paid coaches around. I know that Women Ed England, certainly, and other Women Ed networks are talking about and have talked about coaching, running coaching and paired coaching sessions. So that could be something that you might be interested in getting involved with. And again, it will give you that opportunity to just explore who you are and why you're doing what you're doing. It certainly made me 10% braver. Sorry, Claire.
Quick question, Parm's just come on the chat there. How is a coach compared to a mentor? What are your experiences of that?
Right, well, the difference, I think a mentor is about, a mentor will give you answers. They are a knowledgeable person who you go to learn from. So, for example, if you're moving into a different role and you want someone who is going to promote you and also give you the training to get you prepared for that role, that's what a mentor does. So mentors can be useful when you know what you want to do, and you've got just a little bit of a gap in your knowledge or experience, and they are the people who can actually give you that training, and they can support you into those next steps. A coach is really about trying to pull it out from you and from within you. So they're going to ask you questions, and ultimately a coach will unpick your thoughts in yourself, if that makes sense. So they're not there to teach you, they're there to get it out of you, to draw it out of you, what it is that what you want to do and what your values are, etc. Hopefully that explains the difference there. But they actually fulfill quite different roles in our lives. So, you know, if you're not sure, maybe try it out and have a go. There, as I said before, there are lots of free sessions around. And I think what I can do is find some links and things, and I will share those with the video in the chat afterwards. Now, this leads me on to this, and I like this picture because this looks like Jersey. Jersey's like this all the time, which is where I live. But gravitas and gravity, those two words are connected because gravity grounds us. Okay, hence the barefoot walking. And if you can think about you being grounded, what that means, it means a connection with the earth. Now, I'm not going to get all spiritual on you here, but confidence is about how we present ourselves. And that connection of grounding ourselves, taking a breath, allowing gravity to work, we immediately feel calmer. So if you think about going into something where you feel really uncomfortable, and I'm casting my mind back to the beginning of this session already. One thing that we can do is just place our feet on the ground, and try this with me while I'm talking you through it. Place your feet on the ground, both feet firmly on the ground, and just feel that connection to the earth. And then relax your shoulders and take a deep breath. And as you breathe out, just allow gravity to do its work. And what you'll find is that almost immediately, as your shoulders sink down, you start to relax. It's such a good thing to do if you're in a situation that you're uncomfortable with. If you're presenting, for example, just like this. If you are at an interview and you're just about to start, just remind yourself of the ground, remind yourself of gravity, and that sense of calm will come across. And going back to my point about those 5 or 15 minutes at the start where interviewers make those decisions, your ability to be calm and appear confident are crucial. Further to that, of course, is this position of power. Now, Amy Cuddy has become quite famous for this TED Talk. And what she talks about is this idea that actually there is a power pose that we can stand. Now, obviously, we're not all going to stand there like Wonder Woman here. But what I'm going to ask you to do is actually to have a go at this power pose in a moment. Before I do that, though, you could all do. What I'm going to do before that, though, is just play a short clip from this video, which I, again, strongly recommend you watch it. Amy Cuddy explores, she's a psychologist, she explores some of the ideas about how body language can say a great deal about who we are and our feelings and our uncomfortableness. And she suffered from imposter syndrome as well, quite considerably, in fact. So I'm just going to find the clip that I wanted here for you. It's just a short clip and just a bit of a background while I'm finding it. What happened to Amy was that she actually had a car accident when she was in high school, and this had a profound impact on her health. She actually ended up she ended up in hospital. She ended up kind of being taken back. She missed a year of schooling, which for her was really profound because she identified herself with her education and with being like super bright. So she had to work hard to get herself to college, get herself to Princeton, which is where she ended up. And let me just
leaves you feeling more powerless than that.
Show you what happened to her.
Fairly powerless. I worked and worked and worked, and I got lucky and worked and got lucky and worked. Eventually, I graduated from college. It took me 4 years longer than my peers, and I convinced someone, my angel advisor, Susan Fisk, to take me on. And so I ended up at Princeton, and I was like, I am not supposed to be here. I am an imposter. And the night before my first year talk, and the first year talk at Princeton is a 20-minute talk to 20 people. That's it. I was so afraid of being found out the next day that I called her and said, I'm quitting. She was like, you are not quitting, because I took a gamble on you and you're staying. You're going to stay, and this is what you're going to do. You're going to fake it. You're going to do every talk that you ever get asked to do. You're just going to do it and do it and do it, even if you're terrified and just paralyzed and having an out-of-body experience, until you have this moment where you say, oh my gosh, I'm doing it. Like, I have become this. I am actually doing this. So that's what I did. 5 years in grad school, a few years, I'm at Northwestern. I moved to Harvard. I'm at Harvard. I'm not really thinking about it anymore. But for a long time, I had been thinking, not supposed to be here, not supposed to be here. So at the end of my first year at Harvard, a student who had not talked in class the entire semester, who I had said, look, you got to participate or else you're going to fail, came into my office. I really didn't know her at all. And she came in totally defeated. And she said, I'm not supposed to be here. And that was the moment for me, because two things happened. One was that I realized, oh my gosh, I don't feel like that anymore. I don't feel that anymore, but she does. And I get that feeling. And the second was, she is supposed to be here. Like, she can fake it. She can become it. So he's like, yes, you are. You are supposed to be here. And tomorrow you're going to fake it. You're going to make yourself powerful. And, you're going to.
So we're going to fake it. Okay. So we're going to try this position of power, because that ability to, the more we put ourselves into that position whereby we can demonstrate that we are confident, that we know what we're talking about, that we own the room, the more people are going to believe it. And once they start to believe it, we can then move into those positions whereby actually we get like Amy Cuddy, we start to believe it ourselves. So by this position of power now, you're going to have to stand up, guys, okay? So you're going to have to stand up, and it's arms and legs uncrossed, spine straight, face relaxed, okay? Now you can do that. I'm there you go. So arms and legs uncrossed, spine straight, face relaxed. Give it a go. Remember to ground your feet. And this feeling, you can put your hands on you. That's it. I don't care. Now this feeling is that Wonder Woman feeling. You can even spread your legs there a little bit and actually feel that power. And it's a real power. You can see why some people stand like this, because there is a real power in that role. How do you feel, Claire? Are you feeling that? Are you feeling that sense of power?
Actually, yeah, I am. Take on the world.
It's quite a powerful feeling, isn't it? That just standing there with your, it's like you own the room. And just that reminder, okay? Maybe try it sitting down if you don't want to stand up, but just arms and legs uncrossed, spine straight, face relaxed. How does that feel? And the minute you start to think about relaxing your face, the minute you lower that stress hormone, the minute you come across as more relaxed and more calm. So power pose, ladies. We're going to fake it until we make it. Our final, well, not quite my final strategy, but certainly one that is really, really important, is this idea of a circle of power. And by that, what I mean is joining a network. Join a network like Women Ed. Chartered College is another great network. You'll have networks around you that there are many. And what networks do is they actually create a sense of, they build a group and they give us insight into what is the known knowledge. If we think about why some men or some groups are more successful, largely it's because of that old boys network, as we refer to it. Their in knowledge, their ability to share knowledge amongst themselves. And that gives them power. And that gives them confidence, because they can then act. Having a network actually allows you to have access to that information, access to that knowledge, and empowers you. Not only that, though, this quote, which I said I was going to reference Women Ed Scotland, because this was shared this week on Women Ed Wednesday by somebody. And I thought it was such a great quote, because ultimately networks create that sense of cheering each other on. If you search on #WomenEd on any given day, what you will see is woman after woman after woman, and lots of men as well, actually, allies, champion each other. They are cheering each other on. They are just celebrating the sheer joy that comes from being and seeing other women being successful. And that is confidence building. That gives us the confidence not only to believe that we can do it, but also to share in the joy that comes from when somebody else does it. And networks, Professor Paul Miller wrote that being part of a network actually gives you as much access and is as powerful as going to the pub every Friday night with the in crowd. So that's really, really powerful stuff. Somebody mentioned mentoring earlier. Mentoring is another way of giving yourself the ability to be confident and to be successful. Talking to people or finding mentors who are willing to support you. And networks like Women Ed are full of them. Women who are prepared to give up their time to support others. You can then have the knowledge, access to the knowledge that will then give you that confidence to take that next step and to be 10% braver. So looking out for those, but then also championing them when they come. So that circle of power, those networks can be really, really important to us feeling that sense of confidence and empowerment. And finally, I've got Brené Brown is everyone's favorite person here, but women, as I said earlier, we tend to lead differently, and our feelings are actually more authentic. We want to be more authentic in the way that we lead, and this leads to us feeling like imposters because we don't feel that we can be the people that we want to be. But actually, vulnerability is being seen increasingly in more and more research now, that this is being seen as a successful form of leadership. We only need to look at New Zealand and Jacinta Ardern as an example of this. She proudly shares her vulnerability. She is authentic. And by being vulnerable, by us sharing our experiences and talking about them and opening ourselves up to that vulnerability, which is uncomfortable, will actually bring us to a sense of belonging. And at the end of the day, we're all humans. We all share and respect and value that space where we expose a little bit of ourselves, because it creates those bonds. And those bonds are what are going to give you the confidence to seek more. And as it says there, the birthplace of joy, of creativity, of belonging. Once you open yourself up to that and you actually show your vulnerability, you talk about your struggles with imposter syndrome, for example, you can then start to move beyond that. So acknowledge it, but recognize that from that acknowledgement will come the confidence that you need, because you can build on it. So I think I'm at the end of my talk. I was going to talk a little bit about conversations, tough conversations, because part of feeling like an imposter often and lacking confidence means that we struggle with tough conversations. And I'd recommend these books, which are all brilliant, because again, they link us back to our values, link us back to what matters. Because if we want to have a tough conversation, often what we're thinking about is the uncomfortableness of talking to somebody. I don't feel that I can talk to you in this way because I don't feel that I deserve to be here. That's the situation that has to change. If you think about a tough conversation as actually, it's about love, and it's about radical candor. It's about, I'm being kind to you here because we need to move this forward. This is what we value. This is not happening. Therefore, things need to change. It's as simple as that. And again, it comes back to your values. What is it that you value? What is it that matters to you? And how can you use that to remind yourself that you, in your roles, in your positions, you've earned those positions. You've absolutely earned the place that you got to. You have the logos, you have the knowledge, you have the purpose. And all of that should be what's actually driving you on a day-to-day basis and reminding you that you are absolutely worth your position and where you are. I talked a lot about these books today, but they are really, really great at kind of unpicking some of the things that we've explored today. 10% Braver, the original book is more research-based about some of the kind of aims of Women Ed, but this second book, Being 10% Braver, is lived experiences. And, there's a chapter on slaying imposter syndrome by, I think, Imogen Senior in here. There are chapters on feeling like an introvert basically, and not feeling that everyone is kind of part of you or feels the same as you. There are all sorts of chapters in here, so if you haven't bought it, I'd strongly recommend it, just because that resonance that we get when we learn about somebody else's experiences helps us to challenge our own feelings. So well worth doing. And then these are all the books, again, that I refer to. So they are here on the screen. I'll just leave them up for a few moments. But books, again, that I would strongly recommend. I used all of these as part of this session today. All really worthwhile reading in terms of building your confidence, building your success, and owning your success, which I'll repeat, you have earned and you deserve. So, as always with a Women-Ed event, what we do is we always ask people to make a pledge, okay? And these are often done as part of our own conferences and as part of our other experiences. So, it's our year of being braver. This is our, the book was launched in December. We are encouraging, we're reaching out to people to be 10% braver. So how are you going to be 10% braver following this session? What are you going to do from this session that is going to make you feel 10% braver, or make you kind of slay that imposter syndrome in you in the next week, in the next days? So on Twitter, if you're on Twitter, that is. If you're not on Twitter, well, you should be, because Twitter is a brilliant network. And I mean, I think my knowledge, my experience, my life is so much richer because of Twitter. Not because I spend all my time on Twitter, as my children would say I do, but because I've met so many amazing people through this network and through other networks that I have. So if you're not on Twitter, get on Twitter. But if you are, please do tweet using the hashtag WomenEd, being 10% braver. You can have my name and tag me in, and I'll retweet and comment or whatever. But just say, how will you be 10% braver? What are you going to do? You can also add Claire as well.
Yep, at Clary_S.
Claire, yes, yeah, _S. So add her in, I'll tag her in if not. But have a go. Just tell me what you're going to do. What one thing are you going to do after this session that's going to make you 10% braver? And I'm going to finish on this final point, I think, that you are enough. We know we're here to try and think about how we can be braver, how we can be more courageous, how we can own our success and our ambition. But you've got to remember that everything is within you and you are enough. It's all there. Sometimes we just need a bit of encouragement to get it out of us. Thank you. So Claire, have we got any questions at all from people, or?
Now, we did have a couple of questions. Firstly, would you mind popping the slide back on that shows the imposter syndrome type poster? That was a request from Beth, if that's possible.
Oh, okay. I'll try and get back.
The infographic.
Yeah, it's one I just found, so I can't take any praise for it or credit for it. I did just find it somewhere, but I think it's that one, right?
Yep, that looks like the one I think that Beth was referring to. And there was another question as well that came really, really early on. I've sort of banked it, and I did respond saying it might be one to post out on Twitter. But it was about working with lots of sort of dominating men and not being able to get a word in edgeways, and needing time to process something, whereas men are just sort of bulldozing up something through, and whether you might have had any strategies to how to tackle that sort of an environment.
It's funny because I'm very much like that. I need time to think things through as well, and I struggle in meetings where people often will talk over you. And I remember some of the earlier meetings when I stepped up to leadership, where I was like wanting to put my hand up to say things, and it just wasn't like that. It was just more of a locker room kind of experience where people just shouted out, and I found that really strange. Strategies for that, there are the best thing to do there, and the best advice I've heard is to go look at what Obama did in his cabinet, because he found what he did was he wanted to create a really diverse cabinet. And which he did. He was really successful at bringing a lot of women into his cabinet. But what he found was that those women didn't feel comfortable talking. They weren't getting involved. They weren't contributing to the meetings. And he wanted to know why. And this was because of exactly that experience that you're describing there. They didn't feel competent. They didn't feel comfortable enough. They wanted to be sure that everything they said was 100% before they said it. And women will often do that. We want to be absolutely clear that everything we're saying is right and we're validated, whereas other people will just simply jump in without not necessarily thinking through that. So what he suggested was actually the women started to do this themselves. They started to create allies between them. So if you can find somebody who is going to champion you, or an ally, you champion each other in a meeting. If there is another woman in there, maybe the two of you could work together and actually listen out for each other and hear each other. And so if you say something and someone starts to talk over you, the other person can spot that and actually then pick up and say, but I think so-and-so was talking, or bring you into the discussion if they think that you're not getting involved. And equally, that could be, you know, a relationship between you. You could do that with them. That kind of allyship in meetings in particular, because meetings can be quite toxic in that way, is a useful way. I'd recommend you read Obama's biography, because it's in there that he states how this strategy's worked. But allies in meetings is a really good way to overcome that.
We do have another one as well about working with women who do not lift as they go, in sort of toxic women environments, which I'm sure people are probably all quite familiar with as well.
Yeah, see, that's a bit of a challenge as well, isn't it? Because we find that now, that's partly, I think, linked to this idea of women feeling that they've got to be a certain type of person to get into those roles, and that kind of then starts to backfire. They've got to be the brash kind of you know, type that puts other people down and just promotes themselves. It's a tricky one to deal with, because you're not necessarily going to appeal to that person's kind of better side. I think the best way to do is actually to find yourself a male ally in that case, someone who can represent you in with that other person, and actually, you know, talk about it, you know, face up and actually say, you know, what is going on here. It's difficult when you get that, because we'd like to believe that all women kind of support each other. But if it becomes too toxic, you know, is it the right place for you? That's another question for you to think about. You know, is it the sort of place that's representing the values that you believe in and the values that drive you? If it's just one individual, though, I'd challenge them on it. But get yourself an ally to help challenge, or get yourself a mentor who, you know, with it, you know, a mentor who will also be able to promote you, because another mentor within the same environment can then present your views and actually challenge that mindset of not promoting women. It's a bit of a convoluted answer, isn't it? But hopefully that made sense.
That's it for the questions, and we're over our time now as well, so it might be time to wrap it up. Thank you so much, Parm. That session was absolutely brilliant. I have certainly written a lot of notes, and I've taken a lot away from it as well, the things that I need to do. I try and keep a sort of document, a running document of achievements. It's like a Google document or something. And every time I do something I'm proud of, or something I'm happy with, I write down what it is and that. And then when I come to apply for something, I've got a whole list of achievements that I can draw on in my application as well, which is sort of my top tip to add into all of this as well.
That's a brilliant idea. I might do that. I'm not very good at doing it myself.
It's great. And the championing women as well. I find that on Twitter, if I'm sort of championing people that I have found, particularly female educators, I'm always adding the hashtag women ed, and then they are then championing it as well. And it's really, really powerful tool just to, you know, give them a bit of a boost, and like you say, lift others on the way up. It's really, really important. Lots of people saying they're off to fake it so they make it. Lots of thank yous as well on the chat box, and I really appreciate everybody's time. And it will be available on the Women Ed YouTube channel later at some point as well.
Definitely.
Lovely.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Claire.
Thank you.
Excellent hosting there from you, being 10% braver.
I am getting better. It's definitely improving my nerves doing this sort of thing. And we've got one more session to go, haven't we, on the 15th of June, which I can't wait for as well, which will be brilliant. Lots of more people saying thank you as well on the chat.
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming. I'm so glad you turned up. I was so worried no one would turn up. Just going to show my imposter syndrome there.
Well, we got, like you said, 280 people sign up. That's a huge number.
Yeah.
And then I think we reached probably nearly 80 as live participants, which is just great. I didn't expect that many, especially during the current circumstances, all these tags going on and how hard we're all working to mark. Oh, thanks, Rachel.
Oh, thank you, Rachel. It's lovely. It's a great place. You should come and visit. It's actually open to the public now, I think. Open to people. And very low COVID figures. There you go. That's going to be our on our tourist blurb, isn't it?
Not for much longer if you keep letting us all
in. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you for coming. It's been brilliant.
Lots of people saying it's fabulous. That's lovely feedback, isn't it? A nice, lovely tonic after a particularly difficult time of the year, says Liz.
Oh. That's
so true. It's nice to have somebody presenting with a smile on their face at the end of the day, isn't it?
It's delirium. That's what it is.
Nervous, terrified smile. But, you know,
that's the one.
It does make a difference.
Yours is lovely though, Claire.
Oh, thank you. It's just a smile through the pain.
I think we're all like that.
Still 23 here. I think they've gone off and made a cup of tea before they come back to log out.
No, we're slowly heading down.
There we go. We had lots that we had to get rid of last week.
Oh, really? To kick them out?
We did have to kick them out. Oh, I have the ability to do that as well.
You do, you're co-host.
That's very exciting. I could start doing that, couldn't I? Apologies if I kick you out.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody. There we go. Kick some out. It's good having these abilities, isn't it?
It is.
Okay. It takes a little bit of time.
It does. I'll help you.
Okay, going down. And one more. Okay. Gone. And it's just us. Oh, brilliant.
Thanks so much, Claire. Oh, it's so great having a wing person alongside a wing woman.
Yeah, you know what? It's really nice to be a wing woman as well, and not the pressure's not on me, but I can boost my confidence by doing little snippets. It makes a massive difference.
Oh, brilliant. Honestly, you don't come across as looking nervous or anything. You just look perfectly composed and yeah, not at all.
That's lovely to hear, and I shall probably watch it back in a couple of days' time and go, oh God, how many?
No, best advice, don't watch it back. I definitely never do.
Isn't it? We're all so self-critical though, aren't we?
Of course.
Just the problem goes with
That's why it's so, this topic was so popular though, because for exactly that reason, we are all just constantly depreciating ourselves. So. Yeah.
I've got a whole list of topics I'm going to post to Vivian about potential future sessions we might be able to work in collaboration on. So hopefully there'll be lots more to come.
Oh yeah.
With numbers like 280 and 360 or whatever, I just think there's a real gap there, isn't there, for women and these sorts of empowering sessions. And now everything's online, it just opens the field wide.
Oh, completely. I mean, it's great to see people from America and Switzerland.
Yeah. Wow. Wow, what a reach. And that's just Twitter as well.
Yeah.
This is unbelievable, isn't it?
It is amazing. And then, I mean, I don't know how many people are accessing it via the website as well, by YouTube, once it goes out there. That could potentially be huge as well. So, you know, there you go. Watching you around the world.
Exciting, isn't it? Watching all my ums and my nervous hair touching.
On our power poses.
Stood there. Oh, God. Oh, no. Anyway, I will let you get on with your evening. Thank you so much for the session. It's been absolutely brilliant.
Oh, thank you, Claire.
Thank you so much. Take care, and I'll see you next time. See you in a couple
See
of
you in a
weeks.
month's time. Bye.
Bye.